Hey everybody, and welcome back to the podcast. I've got an amazing guest here. We've got Ryan is Bassham, right? Bassham or
Bass ham.
Basham?
Bass like a fish, ham like a pig. It's as redneck as you can make it.
That's awesome. Sometimes you hear those awesome stories of how people come over, like their ancestors came over, like blacksmith. They were given these titles. It'd be interesting to know where Bassham came up
You
with.
know,
Uh,
I was able to track it back as far as like the 1700s to Norfolk, England, but no clue what they did over there. So,
hmm. Interesting. All right. Well, that's cool. Learn something new every day,
right.
right? So we got Ryan Bassham here, and Ryan he does a lot of stuff. Basically, an awesome entrepreneur. Loves to help companies grow. He's part owner of PEAX, which is where I met you through. And PEAX just makes some amazing gear. There's a couple things that I've got in the works, like the headlamp, the trekking poles. You guys have all seen that, and it's just amazing equipment. You can tell it's quality and just works, which is what we want out in the mountains.
Sure.
So, Ryan, who are you with the awesome mustache? How do you get that thing to stay that way? Yeah.
And this thing started out as a COVID joke that just won't go away. My wife, I came out with a mustache one day and she was like, shave that off. And I was like, nah. And then kept going. But, wax. I don't have, yeah, here we go. I actually got some here on my desk. If you need to have an awesome mustache, there you go. That's it right there.
Death grip. That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, cool. Well, who are you, Ryan?
Yeah, so man, I feel like a lot of people, I've been fortunate. Kind of came from humble beginnings. My family's owned a travel agency most of my life. My parents just recently retired. And so I grew up in the Dallas, Texas area, just kind of a Northeast Texas farm kid that, I'd never thought I'd hunt anything other than whitetail and waterfowl. And I've been fortunate to kind of travel the globe, work for a lot of really cool companies in the hunting space. And now I live in Bozeman, Montana with my wife and kids. And so it depends on how many layers you want to pull back on that. But high level, I consider myself an executive professional in the hunting industry and a content creator. So I get to travel around quite a bit to hunt and produce content and just do my best to live the dream.
That's amazing. That's really cool. And you've got some awesome mounts there behind you.
Yeah,
I'm not,
a lot of memory.
yeah, I'm not big. Yeah, I bet. I'm not big into to waterfowl hunting actually, and it's something that hasn't really drawn my attention. But I think it's awesome to hear people talk about it and how they get passionate about it, and they can tell the differences in certain birds,
Sure.
and just getting after it that way, and then the camaraderie that comes along with it. I think that's pretty awesome. So, how did you get from whitetail waterfowl hunter to getting out
Mhm.
west? And being interested in that, and then on top of that, making that kind of your full-time thing.
Yeah, great question. So we'll have to rewind quite a bit. So my dad, even though I grew up in Northeast Texas, my dad would go to Colorado every year hunting elk. He did that for 20 years. Him and my uncles would go. And so it was always this big aspirational thing as, a kid growing up in the Dallas area and with dairy farming roots. Man, one day I want to get out to the mountains and hunt elk like my dad and my uncles. And so I just didn't think it was going to be attainable. I had big aspirations to go to Africa one day and some other crazy places around the world, but elk was always kind of high on the list. And so I served a mission for the church that I go to, and I lived in Ecuador for a couple of years. And I think that experience really just kind of opened up my eyes to, you know, you can go and to some pretty incredible places and experience some pretty incredible things. And so having gone through that experience, my parents being travel agents, I was like, you know, like I need to stretch myself and get outside my little box of Northeast Texas and see what else is out there. And so while I was in college, I had the opportunity to kind of work part-time as a booking agent and help organize some different hunts and trips to different places around the world. Did that in conjunction with my parents' travel agency. And then I had the opportunity from there to kind of get into the sales and marketing side of business in the outdoor space, which led to a job with Drake Waterfowl, which led to a job at Sitka Gear. all the way along. I was kind of helping my family with the booking agency and doing things in that respect. And the move from the South up to Bozeman was because I took a job at Sitka Gear. And so along the way through that path, I had lots of opportunities to host clients on different hunts around the world. Started getting out west on my own a little bit more, and also got that addiction to chasing big bugle and elk with a bow, and was able to scratch that itch a lot. And so, but getting here to Bozeman's really kind of what did it. So Bryce Bishop, who's the owner of PEAX, he and I go to church together, and I get a random phone call from him one day, and he's like, "Man, I got this wild business idea. I want to run it past you." And so we went to breakfast one morning, and he's like, I was using these trekking poles, and they were really crappy, and they broke when we were packing this bull out. What do you think if I started a company based around trekking poles, and we call them sissy sticks? I was like, Bryce, that's a horrible idea. I don't think it's gonna work, but you should do it. Like, why? And I was still working at Sitka Gear at the time. And so, anyways, he started doing it. I helped him as much as I could. I had a full-time job, obviously, big stuff going on at Sitka at the time. And so I helped him a little bit on the side, and things progressed. It finally came time for me to move out of what I was doing at Sitka, and some other opportunities came available, which made a whole lot of sense. And so one of those being PEAX. And it's just been growing like crazy ever since. Obviously, the whole story behind why Sissy Sticks is pretty fun, but we expanded beyond just trekking poles, and that's where we've seen some tremendous growth with the company. So we're holding on to the rocket ship as tight as we can as it continues to go upward.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, and it's pretty funny because it's catchy, right?
Yeah.
Like I can only imagine him pitching that idea to you and you being like, yeah, because there's a lot of manly men, burly men that are wanting to go out and hunt and do the Western thing. And actually, it's funny because I do hear there's some other words that might get tossed around for people that use trekking poles, but sissy is definitely one of them. And it's funny that's what he came up with. That's what he wanted to run with, and it's taken off. I mean, it stands out. It's not just a trekking pole. It's you got sissy
Yeah. So
sticks.
the cool thing about that, an older gentleman, he's in his 70s now. His name's Dave Clark, and so he lives here in town with us. He used to take Bryce and his brothers up all the time back when they were kids growing up here. Super macho guy, great hunter, spent a lot of time of his life in the mountains. And so he's the one that coined sissy sticks, because he still goes out in his 70s and tries to get an elk every year. And he gets frustrated, and he's hiking along. He's like, give me those sissy sticks, referring just to trekking poles in general. And so that's kind of where that came from. It's kind of a tip of the hat to a mentor of Bryce's. Bryce really respects him, and we thought it was funny, against the grain, kind of like what you're saying. It's like, we try to be too macho in this industry sometimes. And yeah, like what we're doing is it's a lot of fun, and it can be hard work, but like, man, at the end of the day, like anybody who really wants to do this, it's definitely achievable and doable. So going against the grain with that name was a great way to stand out and be differentiated from everybody else trying to be so hardcore. And yeah, it's taken off. It's been a lot of fun.
That's awesome. Yeah, and that's really cool. I love hearing that too, that, names come from mentors or tipping the hat to people, giving respect to other people as well. And it definitely is a conversation starter. And I love bringing people over to, during the Western Hunt Expo, or even just here at home, and showing them that difference, because there's a difference. So for people that don't know, the sissy sticks, which I have some kind of off frame over here, but half of it's aluminum, the other half is carbon. So you get some of the weight savings, you get the heat, lack of, that
Mhm.
transfer of heat, but also you get the bendability of aluminum rather than it snapping. So walk us through that just a little
Yeah,
bit.
and I mean, the whole idea was to kind of create this hybrid product that gives you the best of both worlds. I mean, the issues that we were facing with other products we'd used in the past before we came up with this company, they were breaking really easily. Like, you sacrifice a lot of durability when you're trying to um, you know save on weight. But when you save on weight and you're sacrificing your durability, you tend to find yourself in uncomfortable situations. And so the whole mission has been, how do we stay comfortable on the mountain? Because the more comfortable you are, and the longer you can stay out, the more success you'll probably have. Success comes with time in the field. And so making products, and the trekking pole being that first one, that keep you in the field longer and more comfortable has always been the goal. And so, yeah, the design of that trekking pole, obviously there's a lot of strength still in that carbon, even though it's a little bit lighter. With that aluminum, upper part, it allows you to have heavier workloads. Most trekking poles on the market, they're not built for pack outs. They're built for, a day hiker essentially. And so ours are built to take more of a heavy weight load, up and down steep inclines. And that's kind of what sets us apart specifically for the hunter. We like to say we're for hunters by hunters, and we test the product as such.
No, I really like that. That's awesome. And your gear kind of all the gear that you guys have come out with kind of builds on itself,
Right.
but it's something that people can use if they're backpacking, if they're hikers, but also it's more geared toward the durability that hunters want as
Right.
well, because you're out there in rough situations. You may be cleaning an animal until late at night. You want to make sure you've got a headlamp that works. Preferably you have 2 or 3 in your
Right.
pack with extra
For sure.
batteries, because 2 is 1, right? And we've all been there and it may not even be that it's dead, but your buddy that comes out to help you is going to be like, oh yeah, do you have a headlamp? That happens all the
Yeah,
time.
for sure. And I would say most people that opt in on buying our headlamp, they usually buy 2 or 3, and they're definitely buying extra batteries. So
All right, guys, sorry about that technical difficulties. One day when I have an awesome studio built out and I can invite people in, and maybe one day Joe Rogan. No, I'm kidding. But
it wouldn't be
anyway,
real and
that's
authentic if we didn't have some sort of issue, right?
right. Exactly. It just couldn't handle the mustache. That's what it is.
I guess that's what it was. They were throwing off my Wi-Fi or something. I don't know.
Yeah, right. You were receiving signals to the stash rather than.
We should
That's
be
awesome.
good now.
So, yeah, perfect. So what we were talking about there with the, how the gear kind of all goes together. You guys went into
Yeah.
headlamps, and then of course the trekking poles now with your new tent, which I
Right.
know Brian Call and the Gritty crew has been testing out, and you've
Mhm.
had some other people out there testing it as well.
Sure.
It's pretty awesome design. Walk us through your PEAX. Is it the TP, or what are you guys calling that tent?
Yes. So it's the PEAX Solitude 4 TP. 4 standing for you can sleep up to 4 in it. Now that TP has different sleep configurations. You can go to our website and see exactly what that is. You can easily sleep 2 with gear and a stove in there. There's a 3-person layout, 4-person layout, without gear, without stove. All the different configurations we kind of have outlined on the website. And so it's pretty versatile. If you hunt with, a couple different people, and you can run that with or without a floor as well. That's kind of the design with it. But to your point, the system-based approach for backcountry hunting gear for the campsite is kind of what we're aiming at. You heard me say earlier, this is kind of a for hunters by hunters sort of a company. And we want to own the backcountry hunters camp. That's kind of been our mission. We're all about, durability, comfort, and protection. These are the principles that we're trying to build this company on. And we want to make sure that our products resonate with all that in a system-based approach. And so, yeah, we have the trekking poles. The trekking poles actually integrate into the PEAX Solitude TP. And it's this cross-functional system that sits like this. So that way, the benefit of that is once you pitch your TP, and you put the Crosstrek stabilization system with your poles up in the top, gives you more headspace. It allows all your moisture to run off more evenly, etc. And so it's just a way to get more benefit out of your gear. You can hang, any wet items, socks, gaiters, whatever, from that. It acts as a drying system, which is pretty nice as well. And so there's just kind of a lot of, beneficial features within running it like a system in that way.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. So for those of you out there that are maybe looking at TP style, or backpacking shelters, and those of you that are just getting into the Western hunting as well, there's different types of, there's tents that you have your traditional floor with the mesh, and then you've got the, the rain fly. those are generally a little bit heavier. And also, the bigger you get, the more
Right.
material, and therefore it's a little bit heavier. And I'm not an ounce counter by any means, but if I can shave reasonably some weight in my pack,
Sure.
makes sense. I'm not going to go chop my, toothbrush in half, or like pull out half the
Right.
bristles. Like
Right.
that's not how much I count ounces. But if I can cut some off here and there, it builds up. It adds up to a couple
Totally.
pounds usually. And so that's an awesome system. And like you said, you can go different seasons and have the hot tent where you've got a stove.
Correct.
And then you can put a bottom in it as well. So obviously that's going to weigh a little bit more. And then when you've got maybe your elk season, that, if you hunt here in Utah or any high elevation, you're probably going to get some kind of snow or something, but not as much as late season hunting. And so you can get rid of maybe the floor if you're okay sleeping on the ground and just have the shelter portion. You're already carrying your trekking poles. Like I love being able to integrate as many pieces as possible of the system I'm already carrying into, the gear. And that's going to shave weight naturally, right? Because you don't have tent specific stuff and other things that are specific for certain items. If you can cross it over like you guys have, that's pretty awesome. So why?
Definitely. And the other thing, sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no, you're good. Go ahead.
Oh, no, just the other thing that I like about more of that TP system too is, if you are hunting with a group of 2, 3, 4 guys, you can split all that up between your packs. So like when you're talking about weight savings, like you don't have to sacrifice comfort and durability, trying to count, ounces and shave too much weight. Like the beauty of that TP is you can split it up. And that's generally what we've done on hunts together is, everybody takes a different piece. Like the floor is separate from that TP. You're carrying your trekking poles usually. And so it makes it really easy to kind of split up the weight distribution between your team. A lot of people have been asking on our TP, are you going to have a nest? Yes, we do have a nest that's in development right now. We're testing. I'm pretty excited about that. And then I think it's pretty obvious that we'll have a stove at some point. And so that stove, I'm tight-lipped on. We can't say a lot about it, but everybody should be excited. It is very much different than anything that's been done before. And I think it's going to revolutionize at least that product category in our space.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah. And again, there's so many people that listen to this. So when you're saying a nest, you're referring to the mesh inner lining. Yeah.
Correct.
Perfect.
Yeah. So people if we've got like Lampers and Brian, like they're pretty grungy. Like they don't usually even run a floor. They're just taking the TP, no floor, no nest. Springtime bear hunts, even, some of our early fall hunts, when you're having a little bit more issues with bugs and that's something that bothers you and you want a little bit more protection from that, the floor and the nest are kind of the answer to solving that problem. And again, it's all about comfort. So being able to have those options is kind of the name of the game.
Yep. I definitely agree with that. And I love that you can take it apart to a certain degree and then add on as you need or want. You have more people, you have less people, you can split up the load. That's a pretty cool system. Now, I'm just going to ask you, why would someone go to you and PEAX? What makes you guys stand out? What makes we're going to stay on teepees for now, but the Solitude tent,
sure.
What makes that stand out over some of the competitors? What's something that you guys are excited about?
So, I think that the integration of the trekking poles is definitely a nice feature, but even more so than that, the guy out system that we have is never been done before. Again, in managing moisture, which manages your comfort, making sure that you have a TP that's pitched in a way that manages moisture in the best way possible, so you're not getting wet, your gear's not getting wet, etc. I feel like we have taken that to another level to provide maximum comfort and moisture management. I think that another unique feature, and it's not going to sound exciting, but the way we built the cone in our TP, which for those of you who don't know, the cone is obviously the peak of the TP. That's a big failure point for products that we've used in the past outside our own. And so our product developer, Jason, did a phenomenal job of totally reinventing and innovating the way he constructed that cone. We've eliminated that failure point for us as a company, I feel like. And so those two features alone, I think are pretty awesome, even down to, why we shaped the door the way we did. having two different entry points. It's all about comfort and ease of use of the product, which when after a long day of hunting and you're going back to your home on the mountain, you want easy, simple, durable, and
Mm-hmm.
comfortable. And so I think those features do a lot for us in kind of allowing us to stay apart from everything. You know, it is not a Dyneema, but that doesn't mean that something like that may not happen in the future. And so we're not done yet. The Solitude 4 TP is definitely our introduction into shelters, but this is going to be a multi-year story for us, and I'm excited for the rest of our products to come along and support that one in the line. Should be really fun.
Yeah, for sure. So, and I definitely agree. You guys are consistently bringing new things to the table and all or changing things according to kind of what you need. You know, what the
Mm-hmm.
hunter needs, what you're wanting, taking feedback, and implementing it, which I think is
Sure.
key, rather than just saying, "No, we know what we're doing. We've got the best."
Yeah, well, and to your point, you know, so David Brinker is my counterpart at PEAX. We worked together at Sitka for a few years, so it's been fun to kind of rally and get back together on this project. But having that testing time period for products, like there were several products that we've worked on in the past with other companies where they just never made it to market because there was at some point during the 2 to 3 years of testing didn't cut it. It didn't make the cut. We don't want to give our consumers a bad experience, and we've brought that same philosophy over with PEAX, and Bryce has been gracious enough and patient enough to deal with us in that and fully embraced it. But when you have guys out there like a Brian Call, Ryan Lampers, Corey Jacobson, you know, Stephen Drake, Randy Newberg is another one that we've brought into the crew, and several others that. And it's not just their notoriety, but the time they spend in the field to test these products with us. They've had a lot of time over the last, you know, several decades, some of them, to see what works, what doesn't work, and then put our product through the paces. And then we're 100% receptive. A lot of companies I've worked with in the past, they fall in love with their product, and it's perfect. We don't need to change anything. And our approach is much different. It's what failed. Okay, why did it fail? How do we solve for that? How do we make sure that this isn't something the consumer experiences? And putting it in a variety of locations and different, you know, temperatures and weather, I think allows us to give a better product to our consumer audience, and that's our goal.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's a big deal. You know, having and a lot of people don't understand. And if you don't know the names that he just listed off, I'd recommend going and checking them out because they definitely spend a lot of time in the field. I mean, it's really their full-time job. That's what they do. And I'm kind of jealous that they get to do that. That's pretty awesome
Careful
to
what you
go
wish
out
for,
there.
is all I'll say.
I know, right?
It
Exactly.
is, but it isn't.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of a double-edged sword.
It is.
You know, just dabbling in the little bit of travel that I've had, and we were chatting about that yesterday. It gets rough being away from the family
Right.
and you know, having to travel for work or whatever it may be. But at the same time, like, you know, these guys get to be out in the mountains so often.
Sure.
It's pretty awesome. So, you know, getting people to test that, give you that feedback, is just an amazing asset to your company. But also, like you were saying, being able to take that feedback and run with it rather than being like, yeah, okay, you don't know what you're talking about. You know, we
Right.
love our stuff.
Right.
And
Exactly.
that's awesome to see companies like you guys you know, doing that. So with just describing the door itself, some people don't understand maybe if they're just getting into the TP or shelter, just looking at different options that are out there.
Mm-hmm.
What makes your door different?
Yeah. So, um, what you'll find, and our product guys are going to be so mad at me because I don't articulate this as well as I do. So, what you'll find is, like, as a comparative, is some zippered doors on a TP or a tent, they're just straight down, right?
Mm-hmm.
And there's some pros and cons with that. You know, it can make it a little bit more difficult to get in and out of it. You know, some moisture can come back into the TP if you're not careful about how you're going in and out of a door with that straight down zipper design. Whereas with ours, it's more of it's a three-way zipper, which is nice because you can do multiple things out of it, which I'll explain here in a moment. But it's more in a half moon shape, and so it comes up and around, from the floor of the teepee all the way here. And so the benefit of that is you can control kind of your moisture as you're coming in and out of the tent. Also, and Brian likes to do this a lot, but he'll set his up for spring bear and he'll glass from it. And so he can just open up the top just enough so it'll fold down this way. And then that way he can sit there and glass, you know, different ridge lines and faces where they're looking for bears. And so it allows you to get in and out of the teepee more easily. One, again, moisture management. Two, because of the design. And three, you can glass out of it based on that design feature as well. And so we have that on both sides of it, which makes it pretty nice if you're running multiple guys out of the teepee. But that's kind of why we went in that direction. It just allows you to do more things within comfort.
Yeah, no, for sure. And there was something else too about on typical teepees, they were getting some kind of stretch at the zipper,
Correct.
due to the pull,
Correct.
this way. And
Yeah,
that's
so
different from you guys.
exactly with this design, and I think that it's multiple pieces working together on that product, but our guy out system and the way that TP's pitched, when you pitch it correctly, you're not having any of that sag or any issues with seams or anything like that in and around that zipper. So that design also is kind of more in the protection category, as I'll see it, because we've eliminated an opportunity of failure.
Right. And then last piece on that, if you guys out there listening want to know the durability of this tent, go watch Brian hold it down in the middle of a tornado, basically, on YouTube.
Yeah, that was a prototype as well. And so we learned a lot on that one. You know, it's interesting in testing that thing over 2 years. Like, so where Lampers lives, he's in a really windy part of the state, a little bit further west of where I'm at right now in Bozeman.
Mm-hmm.
And we would just set those things up in different locations for like multiple weeks at a time when we know wind was really going to be ripping, and we'd be like, all right, it's hitting 50-mile-an-hour gusts out here. Where is it failing? Where's the weakness? Just trying to find any sort of, you know, issue we could solve for. And so again, doing that process, whether it was on hunts and even when it wasn't hunting season, like that TP was set up somewhere pretty much 24/7 for a couple of years. Just, nope, this failed. All right, let's make this correction, order another prototype, try it again. But I think we went through like 6 or 7 prototypes before we finally got it to how we want it. And then of course, without fail, and I've learned this over the course of my career in consumer products, you get it finally to a close enough place to launch it where you're confident, and then like a couple of weeks into it, you're like, I could have done this, or we could have done that. And so we'll always be improving. That's just the nature of being in consumer products. But the testing on this thing was rigorous, to your point. Like we put it through as much as we possibly could.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah. And that just is a testament to people think about this. And I love talking to people because I'm a gear junkie, and people, you know, bring these questions to me, even though I don't necessarily work for any company. You know, they wonder why it takes so long to make these changes. And what they don't realize is, like what you've been saying, it's taken you guys years. Like this wasn't an idea you guys even came up with last year. Like this is something you guys have been working on since a couple of years ago, at least.
Right.
And that's with a physical product, let alone before that, having the blueprint for it and visualizing it and picturing it. People don't realize how long it takes to come out with a new product. It's not just, hey, let's put it into a computer and now we're going to go 3D print it and we magically have this product.
All the products that people want to complain about and get frustrated with because like, oh, I bought this thing and it didn't do this. I'm like, how could it's because they probably did exactly what you just said. They didn't take the time to test it. They went, oh, well, we can find an OEM manufacturer to just do that. We'll slap a logo on it. And then they put it out to the market and say it's great. And then people use it and they're like, oh, this isn't great at all. Like this wasn't tested specific to what we're doing as hunters in our case. We don't do that. That's definitely something we're not interested in. So and
I can imagine that whole process being a little frustrating because you're obviously wanting to get it out as soon as possible and having to like, okay, this is good enough. Wait, there's something else. Dang it, that's another month or so. And you're like, oh wait, we're ready.
You're just investing money. There's no return through the prototyping process. It's just spin. It's like, oh my gosh, we are not making money. and this
Yeah,
is not a
exactly.
nonprofit. So,
Yeah.
but to do right by your customers and make sure they have a great experience in the field, like it's what you have to do. So
Yep.
you
Yeah,
plan
and
for it.
in this society where, you know, people are so caught up on likes or views, or, you know, they're like,
Right.
and people get so anxious. They build this reel and they send it out on Instagram, and they're like, oh my gosh, I hope it gets X amount of views. You know, you guys take years to build these products, and I can imagine it's a similar, if not greater, anxiety of like,
Oh
okay,
yeah.
this has to do well.
Sure. No, absolutely. It there's definitely, I mean, but we go into every project knowing like, hey, like we put a lot of forethought into it. We look at our product map for even the next 5 years coming up, and we're like, all right, does this fit the model for what we're trying to accomplish for our customers? Okay, yes, it does. So now let's start the prototyping process, start making those investments. But at any point, it's you may have to shoot that thing in the head and walk away, and it's a
Hmm.
loss, but you've saved customers a bad experience from our brand. And so
Right.
fortunately we haven't had to quite do that yet. We've had to definitely put our thinking hats on and come together as a team and problem solve, which is great. That's how you get good products and innovate.
Hmm.
So but that's just part of it, man. Like there's no shortcuts. You can't take shortcuts with this stuff. People are relying on products that keep them safe and on the mountain and having a good experience. So we're not taking shortcuts.
Exactly. Yeah, there's so many uses that I've just learned in my few years of Western hunting for trekking poles.
Mhm.
You know, like if you're solo hunting and you need to skin an animal or get the meat off, you can use trekking poles to hold a leg
Yep.
up. Like there's so many different things other than just walking with them. That's probably the least used way for me anyway of a trekking pole. It's like I'm either using them to walk out with meat or they're in my pack. That's usually what it
Right.
is. And as I get older, I'm sure that'll change.
Yeah.
You know,
There's
but
there's a lot of fun gear hacks with those trekking poles that we quite honestly are going to do a better job about and putting some educational videos out there on how to use them in different ways. And we have some products that will come along and continue to work as a system-based approach that just make your life easier on the mountain. So
mhm,
we're excited to share that stuff. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's cool. So you guys have, let's see, the headlamp, which is pretty recent as well. We can get
Yep.
into that here in a little bit. But we've talked about the trekking poles, your TP, and then you've got gators. Do you have anything else other than the headlamp and gators that you would like to talk about?
Um, I'm pausing because my head's in like three different years right now, like what's
Hmm.
currently available, what's about to be available, and then what I really can't talk about at all. Um, no, the Gators was the second product we came out with, second to the trekking poles, and then it was the headlamp after that, and now the teepee. You know, we it was kind of an interesting decision to go into with the Gators. It kind of happened on accident a little bit, but it was a frustration we were having personally, and we were young enough and nimble enough still that we were like, screw it, let's just make our own freaking gator. And so uh, Lampers was a huge Ryan Lampers was a huge part in the development of that. That guy is notoriously hard on gear, and he has a very interesting way in which he likes to product test. Like even with the stitching, like he was taking this little tool he has trying to get it to break, and I'm like, well, no one, like that's not going to happen on the mountain. He's like, it doesn't matter if I can break it like this, it won't last. And so it was just this really crazy stuff. But you know, we use the word bomb proof because that's what we were going for. And I know some people don't like to try to make that comparison, but that's truly what we wanted to do. And there was a lot of thought put into that product. The Dyneema stitching is bomb proof as it's intended to be. There's those hyper internal kick plates on the inside that help reduce you know, any sort of abrasion and wear of the fabric itself. You know, those are 3 and 4 layer waterproof fabrics that allow for maximum durability. And you know, if you're freaking post holing through snow or in different, like shale, like going through different rock terrain, etc., they're designed to take the brunt of whatever you kick them into. And so the little feature that most people don't realize at the top with our buckle, um, it's actually like a quick release. And so instead of having to like reset the sizing and like, cinch it back down every time in between uses when you put them back on and take them off. It's just a quick release button. And so it's more of an easy use thing. It's just kind of a neat little feature that you appreciate once you use it, but it's pretty nice. You just put those bad boys on. It's already set where it's supposed to be for its sizing, clip it in, and you're off. And so that product's been awesome for us. We just released it in a green color this past fall. But they all do really, really well. And then obviously the headlamp, man, that product right there has been killer for us. We knew it was going to do well, but we weren't expecting it to do that well. So that one really kind of, I think, put us on the map a little bit more last year when we launched it. So with the success we've had just in those 4 products alone and what's coming up, like, I'm excited. Like the brand's doing some really cool things that I think will continue to help people. So it's going to be fun the next few years.
Right. Yeah, no, exactly. And again, I love seeing you and, young company. I say young. PEAX has been around for a few years now, but still pretty young. And as far as companies
we
go.
Feel young. Yeah, it still is.
Exactly. And so the fact that you're interested in that growth, reaching out to other markets, I love companies that find holes in a market, or not even just holes, but maybe something that's faltering, because the older companies, which were state of the art at the time, have fallen in love with their product and are not innovating, or they're not taking that feedback to continue making things better. And the fact that you guys are in that young stage where you're like, you know what, we're finding these little things that we've used all this gear, we want to make it better, and we're going to make a product that makes it better. That's a big deal. And so, with that being said, why, I mean, you listed out a few things for your gaiters, but why the headlamp? What would make your headlamp stand out compared to other great headlamps that are out there that do the red light, white light, etc.?
Yeah. So I think, the reason that a lot of people really enjoy the headlamp and what we were kind of going for is the versatility of it, and then the long battery life. And so if you run it in that high, there's 3 white settings, 3 red settings. If you run it in that highest white setting, you're probably going to get about 6 hours, which isn't a lot, but it's over 1,000 lumens. So it's like, man, it's like having a spotlight on your forehead walking around. Most guys aren't going to run it on that highest white setting. The only time I've ever personally used it is when it's like, all right, we are done and we are packing out, and I want to see everything on my way out of here, because I know that we'll be getting to the truck here soon. I typically run it on the lowest red setting at night, because you can get up to 72 to 76 hours on that low red setting without having to charge. The beauty of it is, if you're, running a power bank, you can charge it on those longer, like 14+ day type backcountry hunts. You can charge it with your power bank. It's a rechargeable battery, easy to bring along extra rechargeable batteries as well. That whole headlamp will clip off of the plastic head carrier itself. And so you can use that in different ways. It's got why Stephen Drake loves it so much. It's most headlamps, you can only move it a little bit. This thing's got 300 or 180 degree flexibility in its movement. And so even if you do put it on upside down accidentally, there really is no upside down with that thing, because you've got so much maneuverability with it. And it's durable. We admittedly had a little bit of an issue that we've already fixed. It's been an inline fix since that initial production, where the plastic that holds the headlamp in place was breaking. Outside of that, the hardware is incredibly durable. We fixed that situation. Those aren't breaking anymore. But it's just one of those things that you learn and try to improve upon as you go. But the durability, the flexibility, and the range of all those different lights settings that you can use, it makes it just a really awesome all around backcountry headlamp. So
right. And then you can also lock it. Correct.
So
it doesn't get turned on in your backpack.
Exactly. It's got the typical locking feature. I think that's the biggest mistake that people run into, or fail that they have on their hunt. It's like, oh crap, it turned on in my pack and I didn't know it. Now it's dead. You can lock that thing and it saves you that heartache and frustration. And yeah, I mean, it's got a few different settings that other headlamps don't have, and it's bright. It's really, really bright when you need it to be.
Yeah. Yeah. So far, in my little bit of testing, which I definitely don't beat it up like Ryan, or I need to find out what tool he's got. I'm going to start doing that.
I'm
uh,
sure it's nothing special. It's whatever he found in his garage that
yeah,
he's using just to like
it's probably a
nitpick stuff
bear
with.
claw or something.
Who
Yeah.
knows? Who knows?
No, but in my little bit of testing, that headlamp has been really awesome. It's definitely going to be in my pack this year, and
Yep.
I just want to hear from you. What makes your products stand out a little bit more, because I can find some things that for me make sense, but just generally from the person that's behind the scenes making it,
Sure.
why you guys did it. So,
You know,
um,
yeah, and I think too, like we realize that we're not trying to be something for everybody. Like I think we would start to fail as a company to our customers if we were like, oh, this is the greatest thing for everybody. I don't think that's realistic. If it's not for you, hey, that's okay. We're doing our best to solve problems that we've identified as backcountry hunters. And we're listening to customer feedback the best we can. I mean, to your point, like some people are like, well, why can't you just do this? It's like, that'll take 2 or 3 years. So we may be already working on that and you just don't know it.
mhm.
But I think that is what makes us awesome. I mean, I'm not going to shy away from that. We're a great company because we're doing it right. And a lot of us have a lot of background in working in consumer products in the hunting space, and we've seen the good, bad, the ugly. We've made mistakes that we're not looking to repeat, and it's onward and upward. Let's just make a really cool company and innovate, and that's the goal.
That's awesome. Now, with I just one last thing on the company itself.
Mm-hmm.
Where did the name come from? Where did
Yeah.
Peaks?
So our good buddy Jordan Harbison helped us there for a little bit, and then he's been so successful in everything he's done. For those of you who don't know Jordan, he was one of the original founders of Mountain Ops. But the guy's been a marketing genius and worked with multiple companies in the hunt space for a long time. And so we decided originally that I have to laugh. So, it was such a bad idea. Originally, the company was called Big Sissy Gear, and we got over our ski tips a little bit there, and in hindsight that was absolutely a horrible name and idea. And so Jordan course corrected us and said, we were only like a year old at the time, nobody knew who we were. He's like, let's rebrand. It's a great time to rebrand. We had kind of stumbled across the idea. Originally it was just going to be trekking poles, and we were like, this is fine, but this isn't, like, how do you make a business out of just trekking poles in our space? And then light bulb went off. It's like, oh, we need to own the backcountry hunters campsite. And so we can't be Big Sissy Gear anymore. That won't work. And so it just went through like a typical process of a rebrand. You get some creative marketing geniuses in a roundtable discussion, and you start whiteboarding different ideas. And, a mountain peak is a very common scene that you would see with any of our products, and that quickly turned into the cool idea of PEAX with an X. And so this whole business right here was a couple of months of just a rebranding project, and trying to identify ourselves a little bit more broadly across what we think the next 10 or 15 years plus would look like brand.
No, that's awesome. That's really cool. I've always been interested in knowing how that
Yeah.
came about, and I would agree that Sissy Sticks is fun. Uh, Big Sissy Gear, I don't know how. I don't
I
know
don't
how
know
that
that
would
it would
have
have worked.
gone.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
don't think it would have worked as well up to this point. The Sissy Sticks will never go away. That'll always be kind of the trekking
Mhm.
pole line. And again, it's that tip of the hat to where it started, and to a gentleman that was a mentor to our founder. And
Mhm.
that'll never go away. That was a cool way that the company started. Because I remember when so I was really the first person that came in to start helping Bryce. And I saw Brian was about to go to New Zealand, and I sent him a text. I was like, hey, dude, I saw you're griping about the trekking poles you're using. I was like, I got a buddy that I'm working on a new company with. You got to try these trekking poles. Can we send you some? And he was like, all right. He's like, well, what are they called? And you got to remember, Brian calls podcasts, and his YouTube channel is
Mhm.
Gritty. And I was like, they're called Sissy Sticks. So you've got these two clashing, names, which is pretty awesome. He was pretty apprehensive about it, and I think he still struggles a little bit with him being gritty and using Sissy Sticks. But he's fully embraced it. And he and Lampers took those trekking poles to New Zealand and fell in love with them. And they've been, a big part of the growth in the brand. And I just kind of snowballed from there. But Sissy Sticks is here to stay.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. That's and then I did say that was the last question about the company, but I did have one more question that
Yeah.
I've gotten asked a lot personally. I'm sure you guys have too. But just putting it out there with a lot of people loving the idea of cork on the handles of the poles. Yeah, you knew this was coming. What is there any plans to put cork on the handles, and also why didn't you start there when so
Yeah.
many other brands that's what they do?
Uh, when is this podcast dropping? When are you releasing this?
Probably 5 or 6 weeks. Yeah.
Okay. So guess what, guys? The cork poles are here. So yeah, they're going to be here by the time this podcast. So the Elite pole will have a cork handle option as well, and then the Z pole will have a cork handle option. And so the reason we didn't start there is, as any good company knows, you go through some market analysis. Those data points are key in making sure that you're giving consumers what they want. There's some qualitative data there, some gut feeling that weighs in as well, since we are all hunters at PEAX. But ultimately, the decision was made just to hold off on the cork and let's see how everything else goes, because the lion's share of the market actually is not cork, is what we found. And so we're excited to be able to offer the cork handles this year. I think they'll do really, really well. Personally, I think that's what I'll probably gravitate towards myself.
Yeah. Yeah, that's what I constantly get asked when I'll send people. I'm like, hey, you should definitely go check out these or that, and everyone's like, oh, they don't have a cork option. I'm like, I know.
Yeah, I know. But believe it or not, it didn't make sense to start there. And then, anybody who's ever started a business before, it's like you kind of have to pick and choose, and it's tough because it's like we would love to just come out immediately and do everything, but we didn't have a big investor. Like, it's been a bootstrap sort of a deal. It's Bryce and us, doing our best to make the best decisions possible for customers and the growth of the company. And so, I would have loved to pull out like 20 products year one, but this slow, methodical growth and really making sure we're building the right products that meet expectations is working. So
that's awesome.
It's what we're going to keep doing.
I definitely understand that can be frustrating, but it's definitely, respectable to not just slap something on a product just to get it out there. You want to build your brand based on high quality products. And that's definitely something that people need to understand. And, when their cheap stuff craps out on them because they went to Walmart and bought the cheap stuff, they're going to end up back with you. They'll be like, oh, hey, now they do offer this product. Look at that. And it's better. It's going to last me more than a year. So that's awesome. So shifting from PEAX, I think we've broken pretty much everything down that I had questions about personally, that I've received questions on. Let's talk about Ryan a little bit here. And, the whole idea of going from, Eastern, I guess, were you Midwest or Eastern?
East Texas. Yeah.
East Texas. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. So that's a whole nother.
Yeah, it's its own little country over there. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's not really Midwest or Eastern. That's just Texas.
No,
so
you were just Texas.
That's awesome. So going from that to Western hunting, and then now, you help out with a lot of companies. PEAX is obviously one that's kind of on the forefront. That's a lot of gear items as well. But you just have that entrepreneurial spirit, which is something that I feel like is growing in a lot of people, but a lot of people don't tap into that. It's not something that people feel comfortable with, which I'm sure you as well didn't feel comfortable the first time you jumped off that secure job that you had into the entrepreneurial field.
Big risk.
Exactly. And on top of that, you've got a family, and not just a family, you're growing your family. You're currently your wife has a bun in the oven. So you got your first little boy, right? So congrats on that as well.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah. You're right. It's
I was just going to say, talk a little bit about your entrepreneurial spirit, how you tapped into that for those that may be looking to make the leap or have thought about it, and the kind of that process behind the whole, getting out of that secure job into entrepreneurialism.
Super interesting. So mine was very uncomfortable. So I was having a lot of success at Sitka, and they were going in a totally different direction. I was having a hard time really kind of getting on board with the direction the company was going. I grew up quite a bit differently. The things I love about hunting and staying true to hunters is important to me. And so it was not a clean or a very fun exit, but it was mutual. And so, yeah, I mean, I was kind of found myself in an interesting position. This was right before COVID, literally like a month before crap hit the fan. And so, obviously I knew we were about to start doing some good things with PEAX. It was still big sissy gear at the time. And I knew there was an option there. I'd had some other companies reach out, wanting me to be involved in what they were doing. And my friend David Brinker had left Sitka for similar and other reasons about a year before I did. And he was happier. He was much happier. Was making more money. And I was like, man, what am I doing? Like, I'm miserable. I'm depressed. I have anxiety. It's negatively affecting my family, all because I'm sitting here slaving away, grinding it out, trying to do my best for, potentially a company that doesn't really give a crap. And that's been my case. I'm not singling out any one company here, but that's kind of been my experience in every company I've worked with prior, since right out of college. At the end of the day, you're expendable when you work for a corporation, and it's a machine, and you can have a lot of success, have a lot of great learnings, have a lot of great people that I worked with over the years that I credit to allowing me to learn what I've learned and grow, and still friends to this day. But what I learned is, in creating Trophy Expeditions, which is the booking agency I own with my dad, it was kind of an offshoot of their travel agency. That was way more fun and gratifying. And I felt like we could control our narrative a little bit more and do something more meaningful and impactful beyond just, having a bunch of execs look at a spreadsheet and commanding the troops accordingly. I learned that wasn't for me. And so all those things kind of came together, that I was trying to jump off the cliff, kind of getting shoved off the cliff and jumping at the same time. And it was the best thing that ever happened to me. I mean, literally, my happiness is up tremendously more. I have way more freedom. My daughter is a phenom softball player. We just got back from Arizona. Her team just qualified for a national championship in California this summer. And I have the freedom and flexibility to go and be with her every step along the way and travel the country playing softball, which I love watching her do, and get to hunt a lot more for myself now as well. And so there's give and take. Is it a huge risk? Absolutely. But if you find success and you're confident in your own personal skill sets, and if you work hard, I mean, people probably look from the outside looking in, they're like, geez, all that guy does is travel and hunt. It's like, man, I probably put in more hours than most people, but I get to make my hours when I want to, and it allows me freedom to be with my family more and hunt more. It's just allows you more freedom and flexibility to play in your life. And so I think that in being an entrepreneur, you have to be opportunistic. And so I think for a lot of people, they don't realize that those side hustles, they're real. Like, you better have them. You need safety nets with safety nets with safety nets, because things can change. Like, a lot of what I do is contractual. I'll be on a 12-month contract, or I'll be on a project basis, and then it's turn and burn. I've got equity in some companies, I don't in others. It's a grind. Like, it's definitely not the stability as having a full-time job with a corporation that's just like, oh, I just sit back and go through the motions, but it's much more gratifying. And so that's where that happiness factor comes in. If you're going to spend the majority of your life working, you better do something you love. And I've just decided to fully embrace that.
That's awesome. And you're doing better financially, which is what a lot of people, they are concerned with, and rightfully so. If you have a family, we're, definitely you and we're not saying like jump off the deep end and leave your family hanging.
Be calculated.
Like, that's not good
you
either.
have to be calculated. I had safety nets in place. So I was like, all right, I'm jumping, but I know there's a net below that net and a net below that one. So we have some opportunity to make this work. And if it fails, I can go back to what I was doing with somebody else. So
Exactly. No, that's awesome. And I definitely respect that a lot. That's it's a huge deal that, and I think there was some golden nuggets in there for sure of that people need to understand that, yes, you've got your 9 to 5 right now, which I still do, but
Right.
you start working towards your other goals, putting time into that. There's going to be nights like last night. I mean, again, you and I were chatting about this, but last night I didn't get home till 2 in the morning
Yeah.
because I was out doing stuff that honestly, I was helping with elk shape camp. I don't get paid to do that, but
Right.
gratified by helping other young campers get a better experience out of that, networking with them,
Sure.
meeting people. I met some amazing people at camp, getting to talk with other guys that are actually running the elk shape camp and
Right.
meeting up with them when they're so busy that they don't have time to sit down and chat for hours. But you're at the camp, you get to go and hang out with these guys and learn from them.
Right.
And so things like that, you have to make that sacrifice where, it's building up your network. It's building up those safety nets, like what you're talking about. So you do have that exit strategy whenever things do end up either going wrong, or you're just like, you know what, I'm done. I'm not satisfied here. And that bleeds into, like what you were saying, anxiety, depression, all the other things which do affect your family life, even though maybe your bank account's okay, everything
Right.
else isn't. And so
Yep.
there's all those factors into it. And then of course, it's key, guys, to have some sort of facial hair. If you're a man, you got to have.
Apparently in this industry, like it's like a requirement.
Yeah, exactly. We were just talking the other day. I don't know how Ryan Lampers does the long hair. Like he's always picking ticks off himself. I'm like, dude, like that
Dude,
just
I don't know.
I don't. And then the heat too. Like, oh
I
man,
don't know.
I don't
He's
get
the
it.
he's the backcountry Jesus, man. Like if you didn't know him and he was just walking around like on the side of the highway, be like, man, look at that bum. But I don't know either. Like I'm balding, so I don't have that problem of even having the temptation of long hair. But yeah, no, you bring up a good point. No, thank you.
Find some way to stand out. Like we talk about Ryan with long hair. You've got Ryan over here with the awesome mustache. You got RedBeard. You just find a way to get your facial hair to stand out, right?
It's whatever you got to do. It's interesting. Like we're joking about it, and some people listen to me be like, "Wow, that's really dumb." But honestly, like if you aren't differentiating yourself in every way possible, but still being like a good person and having high moral standard and like having a certain skill valued, like there's a lot of people that can probably do what I do, but I've figured out different ways to differentiate myself and continue to network. Like there is no stop. You can't ever get comfortable. As soon as you find yourself getting comfortable, man, that should scare the crap out of you. You should be like, oh geez, whoa, I need to reevaluate. Like, what am I missing here? What can I, look at in my life, not just within work, but personal life too, to, keep myself sharp, stay growing. And so
Exactly.
I think that works for my personality type. That may not work for every personality out there, but that's where I've seen a lot of my success.
No, I definitely agree. And something else, of course, it's fresh on my mind, just going to camp, and I've thought about this, and I talk with people that I coach, on the side there with health coaching. Just what are you working towards in retirement? If you've got that solid 9 to 5, yeah, you've got your 401k, you've got a couple of other investments maybe, but if you're not taking care of yourself and your family right now, yeah, I see it happen. It's so sad when people retire at 60 or 50, whatever, and
Right.
they're no longer healthy enough to go and enjoy what they've
Sure.
just worked so hard to save up for. Like, what are you
Right.
retiring towards, And so that's another thing that I like to ask people a lot. If you're not taking care of your health, well, when you do get 50, yeah, it's cool if you got a fat bank account, but what is it for? What do you
Right.
want? Like, what are you going to be able to go do with
For
it?
sure.
And so, being able to stay active, be healthy, and of course, like what you were saying, just having that good network differentiates yourself, and being of high moral standard, holding your standard, all of those things come into key to where you can enjoy your life now, but also when you do actually retire, you've got those. I don't like to say passive income. It's technically passive income, but you're still working here and there to help build these other companies that you're involved with. But you're able to make your own time and do what you want. Go travel with your daughter that's crushing it at softball and things like that. And That's just, I think those are some big golden nuggets to take from this conversation. So I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where can people find you, if they want to, reach out to you, ask you questions,
Yeah.
or PEAX even?
Yeah. Great question. I'm trying to think of the best. I would say, I don't know. I probably, you can follow me on Instagram. My account's pretty simple. It's just my first and last name, Ryan Bassham. Reach out to me there. I have a lot of people almost on a daily, if not, but definitely weekly basis, reach out just for whatever. Like I'm an open book, happy to help anybody, whether you're going through depression, anxiety, work advice, hunt advice, want to book a trip, ask about products, whatever. That's kind of become a really fun place for me to be able to help people. And so I like to look at it from that point of view. Reach out to me there. If you have any specific questions about PEAX, you can shoot me an email, ryan.bassham@peaksequipment.com or info@peaksequipment.com. And that's, reach out anytime. I'm an open book. I like to chat with people and help them on their own journey too. I've had a lot of people do that for me. So we got to pay it forward. People took a chance and bet on me and took the time to help me learn and grow. And I can only hope that I can do that. No promises. I don't know everything, that's for dang sure, but I'm happy to share.
Awesome. And then for PEAX, what's the Instagram?
Yeah,
And I guess I'll put the website down below as well.
Yeah, it's just PEAX Equip is the Instagram, peaksequipment.com. We launched a new YouTube channel recently. Check us out there. We've got a lot more content coming up for that. Trying to think where else. We have a TikTok page, but man, I don't know about the whole TikTok thing. It's still pretty suspect for me, and it's not hunter friendly at all. So, but yeah, if you want to stay up on all things PEAX, definitely check out our website, subscribe to our email. You can do that from the website itself. We're always doing some cool giveaways. We like to run some pretty cool programs at our showroom here in Bozeman. Doors are always open. Please feel free to stop by between normal working hours. Our buddy Jeff Dodd, who we just hired as our first full-time hire, he'll be more than happy to take care of you. Bryce and I are usually doing something in there. So come by, say hey. But we also do these cool things where, we just had a bear camp. And so Mark Livesay, Brian Call, Ryan Lampers were all there. And we did a 2.5-day seminar, geeking out on, e-scouting and with the current weather that we're dealing with, what are the best tactics for early spring bear hunts? How does that change? And how do your hunting tactics change throughout bear season into mid and into your late season, and how do you find bears? How are you successful? Anything and everything around it. We've done some specific to elk. We had Corey Jacobson come in and do a cool thing for Andy Newberg last year for elk camp. So if you want to stay up to speed with new products, opportunities like that to come and interact and learn from these guys that have spent a lot of time in the field, subscribe to the newsletter. We've got some cool stuff going on. So But yeah, otherwise, man, hopefully we'll catch you guys in the field or at an event or something somewhere where we love talking to our customers and getting feedback. So reach out.
Awesome. Yeah, you heard it here, guys. And, I'm excited. If you haven't picked up some trekking poles, by the time this comes out, you'll be able to go grab some with cork handles,
That's right.
which seems to be a hot topic. So, but definitely go check out PEAX gear. Everything that I've seen, everything that I've personally run works amazing. It's top notch. If you want some gear that's going to last you for a long time in these specific categories that they offer, definitely want to pick it up from PEAX. So I'll leave those links down below, guys. Check them out. And again, thanks again for tuning in. Hope you guys have an amazing day. And of course, get out, live your life, and love it.